LoreWarrior Armor, Savannah Master Hovercraft. Overview. The Savannah Master is the only vehicle produced by S.L. Lewis Incorporated. Savannah Masters are currently being issued to Steiner Cavalry and Recon units, but many periphery worlds have also expressed interest in using this vehicle to counter Bandit King raids. The Savannah Master combines extremely high speed, good front armor protection, and a Defiance B3M medium laser. This combination has proven very effective in field tests against light mechs, with a Savannah Master lance halting a lance of wasps and locusts. Whether these results will hold up in actual combat remains to be seen. Capabilities. The Savannah Master uses the most efficient fusion engine ever manufactured, the Omni 25. This engine is no longer in production, but a large number, rumoured to exceed 2,000, belong to Warrant Officer Lewis, late of the merchant-class jump ship Winnetka, and now president of S.L. Lewis Incorporated. 2 years ago, the Winnetka's crew discovered a large Star League supply facility on an uninhabited periphery world. They dumped their cargo of Botany Bay industrial sand and loaded all their dropships with every piece of equipment they could find. The recovered salvage was split amongst the crew, and as part of his share, Warrant Officer Lewis requested and received the small fusion plants found at the depot. Unlike the rest of the crew, he didn't sell his share to the highest bidder and retire. Instead, he held on to them. Lewis knew that Katrina Steiner was looking for a new combat vehicle that could serve as a screening or recon force and defeat a locust in single combat 75% of the time. Most established vehicle manufacturers were submitting proposals for tracked or hover vehicles in the 25 to 30 ton range, mounting a hefty amount of armour and medium lasers and costing about 80,000 to 800,000 C-bills. Lewis felt that he could design an effective and cheaper vehicle using the Omni. After incorporating himself, he began a prototype. He installed the Omni on a skimmer frame, plated additional armour on the hull, and mounted a Defiance B3M laser on the bow. Although the Omni needed an extra quarter ton of shielding and an extra quarter ton for chamber boosting, the fusion plant allowed the laser to be mounted without adding additional heatsinks or power amps. The front and side armour was reinforced so it could take 2 laser hits without being penetrated, and the rear armour, however is thinner, could only stop a single machine gun or SRM hit. The quarter ton for remote sensors and monitoring set was standard, but the vehicle's speed was incredible, over 215 kph, faster than any known hovercraft. Its production cost was also impressive, at about 90,000 C-bills per copy. When Lewis submitted his proposal to the Steiner procurement office, military leaders were sceptical. The Omni 25 had never been considered militarily viable, and the weight of the booster chamber reduced the armour protection to an unacceptably low level. Nevertheless, the procurement office just couldn't ignore the quoted price. After stiff resistance from the military, Lewis's machine was allowed to compete with the other prototypes. Battle history. The Savannah Master has been used only once in combat, during its prototype trial. Lewis himself showed up at the testing grounds with his yet-to-be-named Hovercraft, and 3 weeks of grueling testing left just 2 machines under consideration, Lewis's and a 30-ton tracked vehicle from Defiance Industries. The final test was to be combat between each and a locust, using the lasers on low power and having sensors tied into the computers to register hits. The Locust's Mechwarrior was Savannah Johnson, a veteran pilot with many kills. During the mock battle, Lewis kept the hovercraft at long range, continually moving, then darting in behind the Locust to pepper its back with laser blasts. The Locust's targeting system couldn't get an effective lock on the speeding target, and its own vaunted speed was no match for the hovercraft's. Although the Locust would manage to hit 1 or 2 of the vehicle's front or side armour, it would inevitably be declared the loser, as the sensors would register 2 or 3 rear laser hits that would have destroyed the mech. All day the tests continued, and in each one Lewis won. Although Johnson had always been level-headed in battle, after 12 defeats her temper began to wear thin. After her 15th defeat, a cocky Lewis began to taunt her over the radio and question her abilities, and during the 17th encounter her temper snapped. She overrode the power control on her laser and fired a burst into the front of the hovercraft. Armour vaporised off the front, but the shot didn't penetrate. Then Lewis cranked up his power, and the 2 pilots became locked in earnest combat. Lewis pulled back to long range to assess his damage, then began a high-speed pass toward the Locust. Snaking his way toward Johnson, he took another laser hit on the front and one on the right side, but his shot hit the head of the mech. Momentarily stunned, Johnson lost sight of the hovercraft, and to the astonishment of the onlookers, Lewis caught the craft between the mech's leg, spun around, and delivered a devastating blow to the mech's back. As the hovercraft then sped away, the mech simply vanished in a fireball of exploding ammunition. Johnson's auto-eject mechanism rocketed her into safety, and Lewis drove his battered vehicle up to the astonished officials. Climbing out of the cockpit, covered with sweat and grime, he asked them what they thought of his Savannah master. Despite some strong objections from mech commanders that the name would stay with the vehicle. Currently, SL Lewis Incorporated has received orders for 1,000 of the machines and is currently negotiating with some periphery worlds for an undisclosed number. The main obstacle to manufacturing the Savannah Master, though, is the limited availability of the Omni-25. It's unlikely that any more of such a fusion plant can be found. Unless the Savannah Master can prove itself in combat, it's unlikely that any fusion plant manufacturer will produce the small engine for Lewis's company. Variants. The Savannah Master is too new to have any variants, although some are currently under study, including one that replaces the medium with a flamer or 2 small lasers. The Savannah Master's design leaves little room for modification, and any change will most likely be for the worst. Notable vehicles and crew. Currently, the Savannah Master hasn't been used in any number for their crewmen to make any names for themselves.